Hello guys, this is Anil Kumar Shrivastava from Obishala. My app is AKCS2121. Anil Kumar Shrivastava from Obishala. My app is AKCS2121. Today we are going to discuss 66th BPSC mains written exam question paper. In fact, we are going to provide you model answers. What should have been your model answers, or what should have been your answers to the questions being asked in GS paper second. GS paper second, comprising polity segment. My name is Anil Kumar Shrivastava, as I already told. I am going to discuss you the questions figuring from the polity section, that is figuring from the polity area. Let me read out the question first. The role of the President of India is like an old man, that is patriarch, in family who has all the authorities. However, he can't do anything effective if the naughty young members of the family do not listen him. I would like to tell you that in fact, you need to answer this question. Say in the spirit of India having parliamentary form of government. First, let me introduce the topic. India, after a long debate in the Constituent Assembly, where Dr. Ambedkar and his colleagues well reflected over the presidential form of government, finally decided to go for parliamentary form of government, as Dr. Ambedkar wanted to have precedence of a responsibility over stability. In fact, in the presidential form of government, what is the most crucial element in that system is the stability. The president, in fact, holds office for a particular period. He is not responsible to the legislature, to either house of the legislature. He is directly responsible to the people of his country, and this way he, while secure in his position, embarks upon framing policies and pursuing other development agenda without suffering policy paralysis, or without being subjected to the hassles or to the trauma, or you can say to the scourge of parliamentary responsibility, as has been witnessed in many countries. Recently, you see, say how, in fact, in India, parliament is being run. In fact, several MPs have been running amok there, holding virtually the parliament at, say, you can say, in ransom. What I mean to say, I would like to tell you, say, in order to save the country from the scourge of such kind of hooliganism, say, and from other, say, sorts of weaknesses that the parliamentary system suffers, the presidential form of government does not suffer from such sort of shortcomings. However, Dr. Ambedkar wanted to ensure that the people's representative should be responsible for all their acts of omission and commissions on day-to-day basis, rather than being responsible to the people after a long gap of time when already things had been committed or had been done. Accordingly, he adopted parliamentary form of government. In parliamentary form of government, however, since the head of the government, that is the Prime Minister of India, say if we consider it in the Indian context, he, together with his council of minister, is collectively responsible to the lower house of parliament. It means the moment he loses the confidence of the house, he is gone. That's this way. He does not enjoy a fixed tenure, or he does not enjoy a particular tenure, because his survival in the office depends significantly, or you can say in a totality, on the confidence that he enjoys from the Lok Sabha. Similar position obtains in the state where the chief minister enjoys the confidence of the state assemblies. In that case, we needed a permanent, say, official functionary there, over and above the prime minister. That could have been the president. Accordingly, the office of the president was conceived under Article 52 of the Indian Constitution. However, since it is the Prime Minister who is responsible to the House for all his acts of omission and commissions, that's why he has been vested with the real authority of the state, insofar as executive decisions are concerned, insofar as proposals for legislations are concerned. Accordingly, in fact, the real power has been vested in the office of the Prime Minister. So if we together read Article 74(1), 75(1), 75(2), 75(3), we come to the conclusion that real power is vested in the Prime Minister of India. This gives rise to another debate. As now break the para and start writing. In fact, you are discussing the second para, that is the expansion part. But in the expansion part, you can break the para and write this way, that this has given rise to a debate whether the president is a rubber stamp. No, the president is not a rubber stamp. He is the patriarch of the family. We call it a council of ministers. As the question appears, he in fact, generally he is say of the greater age than that of the prime minister. However, say in majority of cases, this is not the thing. In fact, Dr. Manmohan Singh was of more age than the president of his time. Say not APJ Abdul Kalam. In fact, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, say he was senior to her. I would like to tell you, and even senior to say Dr. Pranab Mukherjee, or Mr. Pranab Mukherjee. I would like to tell you that say though, but theoretically it is believed that he is a patriarch of the family, and just as an old man of the family, like a grandfather or dada, in fact is at the center of all decision making in the family. Everything in fact revolves around him. Similarly, this should have been there, but say you disagree here, saying that since the president is not responsible to the lower house, in fact to the people through the house, through the popular house, that's why he should not have enjoyed all the authorities. Say he must be there, but he must be there as per his oath that he takes under Article 60, to be read with Schedule 3. say in fact he there enjoys the position of a patriarch and also the constitutional head. He is there in the position of the constitutional head. That's why he is called constitutional head. But since majority of decisions are taken by the prime minister, however, all these things are taken in his name. But the decisions are taken by the prime minister. So he is sometimes also called titular head or the functional head, or you can say head of the Indian Federation. But this is in fact theoretically a theoretical position, but under Article 78 he can ask the prime minister to furnish details with respect to the affairs of the state administration or affairs of administration of the state and proposals for legislation. While doing so, he does not seek opinion from the prime minister. Further, you can discuss how the Indian president is not bound on several counts in several cases to go by the aid and advice or tendered by the Council of Ministers. For example, you can discuss if the sitting prime minister suddenly dies or he suddenly resigns, or in case he does not get the majority in the Lok Sabha or loses the confidence of the Lok Sabha, it is up to the president to decide who shall be the next prime minister of India, whether India should go for general election of the Lok Sabha in order to get a further majority, or an alternative should be explored. It is all in the hands of the President of India. Similarly, under Article 1032, when a question arises as to whether a member of the Indian Parliament stands disqualified, the matter must be referred to the Election Commission, and the President in fact takes a decision on the basis of the advice tendered by the Election Commission. Again, here he is not bound to seek aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Similarly, under Article 2173 of the Indian Constitution, when a question arises as to the age of a judge of the High Court, the matter must be referred to the Chief Justice of India, and a decision should be taken by the President. In fact, he is bound to take it. It must be taken after the advice of the Chief Justice of India is available. I would like to tell you, this way the President of India in fact is not a rubber stamp. So when the question arises, the role of the Indian President of India is like an old man. Yes, it is like an old man, like patriarch. You should write it in bracket, patriarch of the family. But it is because of the parliamentary form of government, he is bound to go by the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers as per Article 74(1). And when we together read Article 75(1), 75(2), 75(3), etc., we come to the conclusion that it is the Prime Minister, in fact, who is responsible for all acts of omission and commission. You can also discuss the Pegasus issue that is rocking Parliament right now. It is, in fact, the opposition is lashing out at the Prime Minister. He is being taken for a ride. The President of India is absolutely safe in his position. No one is going to, in fact, castigate the President of India for this. So if the Prime Minister is there to sustain all the shocks from the opposition parties, why should the power be vested in the President? Certainly, the Prime Minister, in fact, heading the Council of Ministers, takes all the decisions, and sometimes it is done in a way where the question appears. Sometimes, in fact, the Prime Minister too overshoots his boundary or his domain, just as it happened during the period of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi and Indira Gandhi. During the period of Rajiv Gandhi, it so happened that he stopped meeting the president even after completing and coming from abroad, after completing a foreign tour. So he stopped meeting the president and apprising him of the developments that took place while he was abroad. So in fact, Gyani Jail Singh on one occasion attempted to dismiss his government, but for the sane advice of the then constitutional authorities or constitutional experts, he in fact desisted from doing this. They said that if you do this, the matter would go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court accordingly reinstate Rajiv Gandhi government after in fact ordering for a floor test on the floor of the Lok Sabha. I would like to tell you, you can also mention Ram Javaya versus State of Punjab case, (1955), where the Supreme Court held that India conceived of a parliamentary form of government, not presidential form of government. In fact, we should not make any assumption with reference to any such form of government, as clearly India had adopted a parliamentary form of government. This was the opinion of the Supreme Court. In other words, in parliamentary form of government, it is the responsibility that takes better of the stability. And since the matter relates to responsibility, so who is responsible to the lower house? The Prime Minister together with his Council of Ministers, not the President. That's why the real power vests in the Prime Minister. This way, say you should expand it and say as I discussed things, you can do this. Yes, say you should also reflect on this naughty young members, not these young members. In fact, they could be younger, say in age, not in knowledge than that of the president, but they could also play naughty. But it all happens at the behest of the PM, as it happened during the regime of Srimati Indira Gandhi, where she is in fact alleged to have got the permission for imposing the national emergency from then President of India, Dr. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, say at her will. Say in fact forcibly she got this one. Similarly, she took the decision to send army to Swarn Mandir in 1984. Say after Gyani Jail Singh was made to in fact order for this one, as he is the commander-in-chief of all the three services. So in fact, under such circumstances, sometimes the president finds himself or herself under strain to order for such thing. But this is a rare case. In majority of cases, in fact, he goes by the decision of the Prime Minister without say in fact resisting it, without in fact imposing his own will, his or her own will. So this way you can conclude this, and this way this answer would be complete. Say you be able to answer all these things. In fact, justify your stand with the reasons and facts. You should quote these articles and also some of the events. You should also quote the case of the Supreme Court in the Ram Javaya case. This way the answer will be complete. Thank you for watching this. Hello dear guys, this is Anil Kumar Srivastava from Mobishala. My app is AKCS. This is Mobishala app. Anil Kumar Srivastava. From Mobishala. My app is AKCS 2121. You should download this and watch all the uploaded videos, lectures, etc. there. We are discussing BPSC 66 BPSC GS paper 2nd questions of the mains examination, that is written examination with related to the polity segment. I am telling you, I am discussing polity segment questions related to the polity one. In fact, we are going to discuss the second such question. We have already finished our discussion on the first question. We are providing you the model answer. Now let me read out the second question and accordingly provide you the model answer. Indian federal structure is constitutionally oriented towards the central government. Here you should say mention some of the unitary features of the government of India, but start it with the introduction. Tell that Sir Ivor Jennings have said Indian Constitution has a strong centralizing tendency. Centralizing tendency. India adopted a federation in a sui generis manner, as was warranted by its situation. Alexandrovich calls it sui generis, that is born out of its own condition. In other words, we should not say copy it from the United States, Switzerland, Australia, etc. Say we should rather, in fact, we had then adopted it as per our need and requirement. Accordingly, say India adopted this model of Indian Federation, which suited its own circumstances, its own demand. In fact, as per its demand, it adopted the Indian Federation, where say a strong center was needed in order to, in fact, not allow Fissiparous tendencies at the regional level like casteism, communalism, linguism, parochialism or regionalism. But in doing so, in fact, willy-nilly, unwantedly, India adopted a unitary system. It is reflected in so many cases under so many constitutional provision, constitutionally oriented towards. So you have to discuss constitutional provision. In normal times, it is Article 256, 257, where the center enjoys precedence over the states. In fact, the Union Home Ministry issues guidelines to the state to observe a particular course, say in a particular circumstance, like right now we are witnessing COVID or the resurgence of COVID in many parts of the country. Accordingly, the Union Home Ministry has issued guidelines to the states to observe this one. With respect to railways, communication or transportation and means of communication meant for military, etc., all such, in fact, directions are issued by the center to the states, and states must observe them. I would like to tell you, say insofar as railway is concerned, the constitutional framers had come out with an innovative idea of compensating states for the GRP system. GRP, Government Reserve Police, in fact, they are to lodge FIR or to, in fact, deal with the criminal cases. I would like to tell you, for this purpose, the Railway Protection Force Police, RPF, in fact, is not sufficient. I would like to tell you, say for this purpose, GRP is deployed there. And for the state protecting the railways, they are compensated under Article 268 and 269. In majority of tax proceeds that are collected by the center, in fact, are defrayed in favor of the states. So I would like to tell you that say under even normal circumstances, under Article 256, 257, the center holds precedence over the states. In extraordinary situations, when it warrants the imposition of national emergency under Article 352 or state emergency under Article 356, or say if it all happens, however it has not happened yet, financial emergency under Article 360, certainly the center say holds precedence over the states. Also, in many respects, center holds precedence over the states. For example, in the grant of citizenship, in constitutional amendment, and say in other matters with respect to the deployment of say you can say armed forces, or you can say paramilitary forces in the state. In fact, the center enjoys precedence in so many other respects, also in matters of finance and in matters of legislation, in matters of you can say executive matters. I would like to tell you, so the center under various provisions of Article 246 enjoys precedence over the state. Similarly, under Article 341, 342, say determination say of the caste belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe for the purpose of reservation. This is done by the President of India, say in according to the rules framed by the Parliament. So the center enjoys precedence over the states in many respects. I would like to tell you, say you should mention all these articles, all these provisions. So despite India in fact is a federation which in fact was tuned in accord, or which was in fact modeled in accordance with the need of the hour of the country, but in that effort India willy-nilly in fact adopted a unitary system at say sometime. In fact, it seems that the federal features run subsidiary to the unitary system, and it prompted K.C. Vere, you should mention him, who wrote in 1950 his book about Indian Federation, saying that constitutional government. In fact, his book's name was Constitutional Government. 1 year earlier he had already written his book Federal Government. So in Constitutional Government he wrote that India is primarily a unitary system, or Indian Constitution is primarily a unitary system, with the federation being its a subsidiary system. You can conclude this with the statement of K.C. Vere, who in the Constitutional Government, that is his book, wrote about this one, that India is primarily a unitary system, or Indian Constitution in fact should be called a unitary system, with the subsidiary features being its with the say federal features being its subsidiary ones. So this way you can say conclude the topic, and your discussion will be over. I would like to tell you, started with say the statement of Sir Ivor Jennings, then expand the topic with the mention of all these articles, and then concluded with the statement of K.C. Vere. This way you would be able to provide the perfect answer to the question to that is being asked by the BPSC in 66th say BPSC examination. बंद कर दीजिए. Thank you for watching this. Hello dear guys, this is Anil Kumar Srivastava from Mobishala. My app is AKCS2121. You are watching a discussion on the questions being asked in the GS paper second in polity segment by 66th BPSC in the 6th BPSC examination. Say, let me write here. I am Anil Kumar Srivastava from Mobishala. My app is AKCS2121. You should download this to watch all the uploaded videos, lectures, etc. We are discussing 66th BPSC questions figuring in GS paper second. GS paper second, polity segment. 4 questions have come from the area. We have already finished our discussion on 2 questions. We are going to discuss the third one. It is a mix of polity and economy, and thereafter we would be having a discussion on the 4th one. Let me read out the question. The uneven development of Indian states, many socio-economic and political problems. The uneven development of Indian states bred or led to many socio-economic and political problems. Critically analyze that this has created stalemate with special reference to say in fact questions say I have been typed wrongly here. Let me read out the correct one. The uneven development of the Indian states has given rise to many socio-economic and political problems. Critically analyze this. Critically analyze that this has created what problems or consequences it has brought out, with a special reference to Bihar. I would like to tell you, in fact, here you need to look at this one, that in Hindi भारतीय राज्यों के असमान विकास के कई सामाजिक आर्थिक और राजनीतिक समस्याओं को जन्म दिया है, has bred or led to. बिहार के विशेष संदर्भ में कथन का आलोचनात्मक विश्लेषण कीजिए. So first in fact discuss about the uneven development of the country with a special reference to Bihar. I would like to tell you say, and thereafter in fact this should say begin with a general introduction and later relate it to Bihar, and thereafter discuss it in terms of Bihar, in fact in terms of consequences related to Bihar. So while discussing the first component of the question, there are two components in the question. Let me discuss the first component of the question. Say uneven development in the country, that is in India, in fact has many reasons. For example, historical one, say in so far as Bihar is concerned, it was because of the exploitative tendency of the British Raj that Bihar became a backward state. In fact, they promoted zamindari and they extracted at exorbitant rate the revenues from the poorer say farmers and landowners there, say leaving them further at the hands or at the mercy of the money lenders and local zamindars. This has in fact say bred widespread poverty in the state and led to economic marginalization of the poor. So colonial region, in fact a historical region that is related to colonial period exploitation is one reason. Secondly, high population density and low skill are another reason you can say. Say as per 2011 census, Bihar was also India's most densely populated state with more than 1,100 persons living in per square kilometer area, whereas all India ratio is in fact 382 per square kilometer. So this has led to say further say pressures on the agrarian system, because Bihar is primarily or predominantly an agrarian economy. Majority of people are engaged there in agriculture. With the paucity of industrialization or with paucity of industries being there, in fact it led to disguised unemployment and further to some other problems. Agriculture sector, in fact they are suffered most since it employs more than 60% of people there. So majority of say people, in fact you can say say around 80% of the 60%. In fact, if we take 60% as 100%, then we can say 80% of the total one in fact are in disguised unemployment. Low productivity, this also led to low productivity because there is disguised unemployment. People are seen to be employed, but in fact they are not employed. They are unnecessarily wasting away their time on the farmland, where even if they are withdrawn from the job, there would hardly be any impact on the total productivity. So Bihar's food grain yield is lower than the national average and less than half of Punjab. I would like to tell you, say you need not give data everywhere. Say backwardness of technology that is employed in agriculture. In fact, even after the green revolution of 1960s, several new technologies, and even after APJ Abdul Kalam say mooted the idea for the newer technologies for say micro irrigation, drip irrigation. In fact, these things come under micro irrigation, like bivalve irrigation, drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, and for producing in fact natural compost there, or for biofuels, you can say. All such things in fact seem to be a distant goal there, simply because of the non-introduction of the newer technologies. Next, poor physical infrastructure. I would like to tell you, when Nitish Kumar became the Chief Minister of Bihar, say in 2005, I would like to tell you, say he embarked upon say physical infrastructure development. In fact, physical infrastructure like road connectivity, etc., say took place there at rapid stride, but still say rural connectivity, road connectivity in rural areas, what I mean to say, and other infrastructural development like say sewerage and other developments in rural areas, in far-flung areas, could not take place. That's why Bihar became say backward in the development of physical infrastructure. Bihar has the lowest road density with 181 kilometers per lakh populations compared to 386 kilometers at the all India level. Only 63% of the cropped area in Bihar is under irrigation. Irrigation is another infrastructural development in which Bihar lacks. Say only 63% of the cropped area in Bihar is under irrigation, owing to poor public infrastructure for surface transport. Say in fact this has not been made available to the average farmers there. So this is another area where you should be worried about. I would like to tell you further another area, say in fact is socio-economic development, where social harmony is fraught with social divisions, especially after the onset of Mandal and Kamandal during 1990s. Caste politics there played say in full swing. However, majority of the poor, the backward caste and the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, which comprise around 80% of the total population there, could not see the light of the day even under the champions of the caste, say lower caste, in fact welfareism. So this happened in Bihar. You should also discuss this one. You can also discuss other economic constraints like low capita resulting from low savings rate. Overall poverty ratio in Bihar in fact is around 34% still, while at the national level this has reduced to around 22%, 21.9%. Jobless growth over the last 10 years, in fact we witnessed their jobless growth. Though people say in fact got educated there, they passed out their matriculate, secondary education or graduation, but they could not find job. Say in fact last year when general elections to the state assembly was being held, a majority of youth in fact was hearing one thing, that they could not get a job say in and around the area of their residence, simply because of the lack of the job creation effort by the government. So these are some of other constraints from which Bihar suffered. This way you will be able to in fact discuss the first one. Say since you discuss the political issues, social issues, socio-economic issues, so this way you will be able to discuss the first component. Now let me discuss the consequences. What happens when say that there is a lack of development? You should say you should focus on the development under socio-economic. Better you should discuss a human development index, in which Bihar lacks. In state-wise in fact development index released by the center, in fact that started during Vajpayee regime. It shows that Bihar say does not figure among the top Indian states. And you should discuss the Mandal and Kamandal issues, say in fact that finally is squared up with the issues of casteism and communalism. And thereafter you come to the point of discussing these things, that is the consequences that Bihar suffered from the above ones. So after discussing them, say in fact stick only to the demand of the question. Don't waver, don't deviate from this path. The consequences of uneven development related to the migration, the most important one, the most of the migration happened from Bihar. In fact, you saw the plight of the migrant workers during COVID, especially during lockdown announced, say against the backdrop of the say COVID, say in fact last year in March, say 2020. So say in fact more migration is there, more people in fact get displaced from the area of their residence, and they have little scope for a better living, because say where they migrate, they in fact they are subjected further to say poor living in a slum. They in fact spend most of their time, and the state government there is least concerned with their welfare, simply because they are migrant from other states. The second consequences is lack of social opportunity. Children in poorer areas get stuck in poverty, and this breed several sorts of in fact unsavory conditions like criminality and other things. In fact, children from poor areas become criminal because they suffer psychological and social and physical aberration, what I mean to say. And this in fact give them an opportunity to establish their identity, not through say fame, but through notoriety. Say states with high inequality in fact often have lower growth in the wealth, in their wealth. In fact, in Bihar, in fact, because of the inequality, because of the historical reasons of inequality, I would like to tell you around 80% poor there. In fact, share hardly 20% of the land holdings there. I would like to tell you that say marginal and small farmers there share around 97% in 2018-19. I am telling you the data of 2019-18-19. Say in fact they share around 97% of the land holdings. I am talking of the small and marginal farmers. In other words, say only 3% in fact is shared by the top 10% or 8% of the wealthy persons. That is, despite the abolition of zamindari, the system is found there still in a different form, and in majority of cases, say people are migrating there from Bihar, drawn from the upper strata. They studied at St. Stephen, etc., and they also went abroad and became IAS, thus further perpetuating in fact the inequality there. So one way or the other they succeeded in maintaining their social status, and it is one of the reasons why majority of persons from Bihar say prepare for the civil services. Inequality can also lead to political instability. We are witnessing this one. Say recently, in fact, when NDA came to power, we saw that say because of the social upheavals, in fact, Nitish Kumar JDU suffered most and got lesser seats than the BJP there. So should BJP withdraw the support there, it would lead to political instability. So in fact, inequality lead to political instability, and it also lead to civil wars and riots that take place day in and day out. It forces billions of people to live in poverty without access to safe water, education, overall, in fact, human development. In fact, we must understand that human development is the ultimate goal, should be the ultimate goal of the state, and economic development should be the means. But say here in Bihar, what I mean to say, in fact, due to the inequality, neither human development took place nor socio-economic development took place. Here we are discussing it in terms of the say this socio-economic and human development. I am telling you, this is the case in Bihar. So this way you should discuss all these things. In fact, we have discussed the consequences. Say बिहार के विशेष संदर्भ में कथन का आलोचनात्मक विश्लेषण कीजिए. We in fact have critically analyzed the system in terms of the socio-economic development and political development or political problems we have already discussed. And in fact here are three components. Here you should discuss HDI, Human Development Index. Here you should discuss, say together you can discuss the poor conditions of the people there depending on agriculture. Due to the lack of industry, you should also discuss the lack of industry with lesser say opportunities for job. You should also discuss disguised unemployment and predominance of say agriculture but poor agricultural development. You can also discuss, if the time allows, closure of industries there during 1990s. As I would like to tell you, several cooperative, in fact, factories engaged in say sugarcane threshing and sugar making. I would like to tell you, they got closed because of the political, in fact, instability there, and because of the bogey of casteism and communalism being raised there. So this way you should discuss all these things, and thereafter you should discuss these things. It gives some data which I had already spoken of, and thereafter in fact you should focus upon discussing in specific terms say these things about say how these things affected Bihar. Say you should in fact carry out the critical examination of things, which I told you this could not be possible without quoting data. Ultimately you must quote authority or data to substantiate your viewpoint or to argument. This is called critical examination. Critical examination also demand that you should say in fact bring in your discussion say the quotes or statements or reports of the institutions or authorities. For example, you can quote it from the report of the Government of India's Bureau of Indian Statistics Labor. You can also quote it from the from the sources of the state government. You can also quote it from the World Bank's report. You should also quote it in fact from other say group, and say from say some of the case studies you can also say in fact mention. I would like to tell you that this way you be able to discuss things in detail and also support this point. I would like to tell you that I say while discussing this one, you should mention the findings of Acharya, one of the noted economists. He conducted his survey in 2013 about the poverty reduction effort of Bihar government in 2013, what I mean to say. And he noted that despite the fact that Bihar has pursued a growth model, say claimed to be a very successful one by the then incumbent government, by Nitish Kumar government, what I mean to say, but a closer look at data suggests that yes, to certain extent it would be true, but in fact it would be wrong to say that poverty has been significantly reduced in Bihar. In fact, the poverty still remains there, and despite 11% growth rate that was witnessed during first say 5-year period of Nitish Kumar government, I would like to tell you the poverty is still there. In fact, remains more than 33%, as I mentioned you, say with data 33.7%. You can quote Acharya. In fact, he also had been Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India. Recently he resigned, put in his papers. So this way you should quote authorities, you should quote data from different institutions in support of your argument. This way you will be able to discuss this entire question. Thank you for watching this. Hello dear guys, this is Anil Kumar Shrivastava from Mobi Shala. From Mobi Shala. My Mobi Shala app is AKCS2121. You should download this to watch all the uploaded videos, lectures, etc. We are discussing 66th BPSC exams, that is mains exam, mains written exam, GS paper second, that is polity segment questions. We are discussing polity questions. We have already finished our discussion on the first 3 questions. We are now going to discuss the 4th one. Now let me read out the question. I am in fact providing you the model answer. How you should write the answer. Let me discuss this one. The Parliament of India is an effective forum of national integration. Discuss. You need to discuss here. You need not critically examine here. So even if you don't quote so many authorities or don't give so many data, it would be suffice to complete your answer, because it is simple discuss. Here your focus should be on the expansion of the topic, say with a brief observations or critical examination, not in great detail. So Parliament of India is an effective forum of national integration. You should in fact look at the term discuss, elucidate, explain, critically examine, evaluate. You should look all such things. I would like to tell you, only after say understanding what the question demands, you be able to answer all the questions in the right earnest or in the real perspective. So let me say again focus on this one. Here you should discuss how, in what way Parliament acts as an effective forum of national integration. So say first prepare a background, that is introduce the topic. Right here in introduction, start writing here. The Parliament is represented from all hook and corner of the country, and members there in fact participate in discussions and debates, which is one of the hallmarks of the democracy. In fact, democracy is say separated from other forms of government on the basis of the debates, discussions, criticism of the government's policies, in fact policies and programs, and also art of persuasion. In fact, it is the government that has to persuade the opposition to take them on board to get past a legislation or to push through one of its policies. Say, I would like to tell you that this solely lies on the shoulder of the government, and that's why there is a role of the opposition, because the opposition holds the government accountable or responsible for what it has missed or for what in fact it has say messed up. I would like to tell you that recently, see what is happening in Parliament. Parliament is being rocked by different opposition leaders. But say you should discuss these things in introduction and come to the conclusion that since say in the introduction, not conclusion, in fact say conclude this introduction saying that since MPs from all hooks and corners of India come to participate in the debates, discussions, etc. of the Parliament, say they evoke the regional feelings, say of the areas they represent, and it is finally the government efforts to at a convergence. Government efforts at convergence, that is converging all their views, say in fact taking all of them on board and convincing them, say in a way where they accept government policies and programs. This gives rise to say a feeling of oneness, and in fact despite the diversity say here. So that's why we have in fact got a maxim, there is a unity in diversity in India. Unity in diversity in India. This way you should finish the introduction. Now expand the topic. Say it right from 1951-52 when the first Lok Sabha met there. Say despite the fact that the opposition then could not get the required number to be called the opposition. In fact, the Communist Party got 13 seats in the total strength of 489 seats of the Lok Sabha there. Still Pandit Nehru in fact often attempted to take on board the opposition voice or the voice of the Communist Party of India members and other smaller parties, so that his decision on a national topic should not become unnecessary, a matter of unnecessary fuss. So the similar thing happened during 1960s until Lal Bahadur Shastri was India's Prime Minister. However, things started changing when Srimati Indira Gandhi took over India's reins, and it was for the first time in 1969 that the position of opposition was accepted, with Shyam Nandan Mishra in the Rajya Sabha being the opposition leader, and Ram Subhag Singh in the Lok Sabha being the opposition leader. In fact, they earlier were in the Congress, but they walked out of the Congress protesting against Indira Gandhi's ham-handedness. It happened throughout 1970s, also during national emergency when the opposition was roughed up. He was unnecessarily in fact put under strain and put behind bars. This happened to certain part of 1980s. However, after 1989 things started changing because the coalition era began there, and it happened throughout 1990s and early parts or in fact major parts of you can say 2020s, when Vajpayee Sahab and Dr. Manmohan Singh in fact formed the government. It also continued into 2010s and again thereafter. But currently, since Narendra Modi government got majority in the Lok Sabha twice, first in 2014 and secondly in 2019, so it is opposition's perception that he is not listening to the opposition voice. But still, the government is attempting to take on board all the voices, that is the voices which are not conquering ones, which are differing ones, and attempting to in fact build them into one, to in fact get convergence of their ideas on several issues. So that's why several leaders of the opposition, be it Jagan Mohan Reddy from Andhra Pradesh, K. Chandrasekhar Rao from Telangana, Naveen Patnaik from Odisha, in fact several opposition ruled states in fact conquered with Modi government several decisions. I would like to tell you the most important convergence was seen when 103rd Constitution Amendment Act was passed, which provided for 10% reservation to the upper strata on the basis of their economic backwardness. This conquering view was seen there. So this way, in fact, all the national and regional issues are discussed in Parliament, and it gives rise to national integration. So here there is little scope for evaluation, but still you can break the para and say that sometimes though it seems that there is a serious split or vertical split in parties along their party ideologies, are solely due to the party compulsions. But still here again, after in fact in short mentioning this one, you should again focus on this, saying that despite opposition and despite resistance, Pandit Nehru succeeded in 1961 to constitute a National Integration Council. However, the best integration was achieved later on the floor of Parliament, even after India's debacle at the hands of China. Yes, Pandit Nehru at times failed to convince the opposition on why India did not use its air force, but still a larger in fact integration was achieved there. This too happened when in 1978, when the Janata Party pushed for 44th Constitution Amendment Act. Despite Srimati Indira Gandhi government being routed in the general election held in 1977, still she supported Janata Party government's effort in 1978 to introduce to get passed in fact 44th Constitution Amendment Act. Since her party enjoyed majority in the Rajya Sabha, for any constitution amendment, in fact, 2/3 majority, special majority is generally required. So the Janata Party got this one courtesy Srimati Indira Gandhi's support. On several occasions such thing happened. It happened during Narasimha Rao government when in 1991 he attempted to change the industrial policy resolution of Nehruvian era of 1956. He got support from the opposition and also from his fellow congressmen. It happened during Vajpayee's time when he was in fact heading a coalition of more than 23 parties, regional parties. Still he got support on the issue of Kargil war. Even when IC 814, I would like to tell you, hijack happened. He also got their concurrence on so many other issues related to the constitution of Farmers Commission and other National Farmers Commission, what I mean to say, and POTA and others. POTA happened in 2002, National Farmer Commission was constituted in 2004. However, it is yet to get the constitutional status. That was an executive decision, but he got in fact concurrence of parliamentarians. In other words, if the government succeeds, conclude it. In other words, if the government succeeds in convincing the opposition, then it would be easier for the government to take them on board and to get their support, thus giving rise to a feeling of national integration. In fact, that's why it is said that the parliament is the best forum for achieving and for effective forum in fact of national integration. Repeat this phraseology, this term, what I mean to say, effective forum of national integration. That's why it is said. This way you should get over your answer, and this way you be able to achieve the target of writing exact answer for the question being asked here. So with this one, hope you must have got enough from my lecture. I have discussed 4 questions that figure from the polity segment. Hope you must enjoy this, or you should enjoy this, and accordingly you be enjoying also discussions on other segments discussed by different teachers. This way we have come to the end of this discussion. Thank you.